What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And last week, the folks over at 2K Games and Gearbox flew me out to Los Angeles to sit down and play Borderlands 3, which has been not just one of my most anticipated games of the year, but one of my most anticipated games of all time. Now, when I talk about this game, I want you guys to understand, obviously, I got a free vacation to go and play this game. So hashtag sponsored by 2K Games, hashtag sponsored by Gearbox. But if you know me pretty well by now, you're going to know that a free vacation to LA is not going to make or break whether or not I like a game. Specifically, Mortal Kombat 11 flew me out to play their game, and obviously I made a video complaining about that. So I think you can trust my opinion here. So here is my true, brutal opinion on Borderlands 3. And here's the thing. Borderlands 3 is more Borderlands. If you have played Borderlands 1, and Borderlands 2 is an improvement over that, if you played Borderlands 2, this is an improvement over Borderlands 2. Now, I really did not enjoy the pre-sequel because of the space mechanics and the writing. I really never could get into it. I played it, and I'm vowing to play it before Borderlands 3 comes out. If you're a fan of that game, I do understand that, and I do know there's some interesting lore stuff there that I want to hear, but I really don't consider that an improvement. But there is some quality of life improvements and some improvements overall here. Some basic stuff like the ability to slide during combat, and then some cover mechanics, the ability to climb on top of things, instead of just jumping on top of them, actually climb. Little stuff like that really adds up, and I think those are kind of no-brainers to bring it into the modern era. Well, one of the most important improvements is the guns. I cannot believe the variety in the guns. And minor spoiler here, but some of the guns that I got to see, some of the legendaries were bizarre and unique and cool, but even the basic guns, even the white guns, had some really unique properties that kept the game fairly interesting. And when it came to the basic guns, obviously all of the elemental stuff that was in Borderlands 2 and even the stuff that's in the pre-sequel is obviously back. So you have cryo and fire and electricity and all of that stuff, and I'm glad to see that back. But there are also some things that allow you to swap from one mode to another. For example, I had a sniper rifle that swapped from fire to cryo, and that was one of the best sniper rifles I found during my 2 hours of gameplay. So you could freeze them to death, and if they didn't die from being frozen to death, you could flop over to fire and then burn them to death. If they were weak against fire or weak against ice, you could choose whichever one you needed. And I think that's really important for a game like this. Whenever I was playing Borderlands 2, for example, I often found that my guns were limited because I would want to keep one of each element. But if you have a weapon that has 2 different elements on it, then that's a lot better. So if you only have 4 gun slots, and I don't know how many will be in the live version of this game, but if you only have 4 gun slots, then effectively, if you have 4 guns that can swap elements, then you effectively have 8 guns. Well, there's also other guns that swap. You can have some guns that are mini machine guns that swap over to fire a homing missile, or different types of missiles, or different landmines, or a grenade launcher. There's a ton of variety in this game. So much variety that they were actually allowing us to spawn in as many guns at the end of the event as we wanted to do. One of the developers actually came by and just slapped on the P button over and over and over again, spawning weapons into the game to see what kind of variety we could find. And one of the people sitting next to me, when the developer was looking through the guns, he actually leaned in and said, "Wow, I've never seen that before." And I don't know if it was a legendary that it was referring to, or an element or something on that gun. But if one of the developers who helped develop this game, who helped create this game, has not seen that gun, then there is a tremendous amount of variety to the guns. And at the end of the day, that's what makes Borderlands Borderlands. Is what makes it the ultimate looter shooter. Now, when it comes to the graphical improvements, there's definitely graphical improvements. It looks pretty good. Apparently, the game will run in 4K on several different platforms, and I thought the game looked absolutely fantastic. But if you do not like the aesthetics of Borderlands 1 and 2, you're not going to like the aesthetics here. And it's as simple as that. It's just an improved version of the way the Borderlands games have always looked and always probably will look. So I'm sorry if you don't like that, you're not going to like this. But I'm a huge fan of everything Borderlands has ever done. When it comes to the graphic style, I think it's gorgeous and really sets the game apart. When it comes to the character design and the voiceover work, I think it's really, really solid. And I was really glad to see in the preview that a lot of the characters that I loved in the previous games are coming back, not just the previous Vault Hunters, but there's a sign that Tiny Tina is all grown up, and you're going to see Ellie and Moxie and all of these great characters. No spoilers. If you didn't watch the preview, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but a lot of your favorite characters are coming back, and I'm super excited. And the sense of humor seems to be back there as well. You're going to be playing exactly the same kind of game with some slight improvements. If you didn't like the side quests, if you didn't like the humor, if you didn't like the silly stuff from previous games and the silly guns, you're not going to like this because, obviously I got a gun that shot hamburgers from one of my side quests. This is a silly, goofy game. If you're more of a try hard, if you're more of a person who wants super seriousness and you want your destinies and you want your anthems and you want life or death and you don't want goofy stuff, then you're just not going to enjoy this. And that's okay. You don't have to. And I've talked to a lot of other people, and I think that's been one of the biggest sources of contention, is I don't know that the sense of humor has really evolved very much along with the guns, along with the graphics, along with the gameplay. It's more of the same. But that's what I wanted. That's what I was waiting for, is more of the same. I wanted to do more Hammerlock quests and more Ellie quests and more Moxie quests, and I wanted them to give me stupid, silly guns. And I just hope there's a really good, bad character. We've seen the twins, but I don't know if they're going to be half as good as Handsome Jack. But I hope that is something they add to the game. So, I can't really speak to the storyline just yet, but I'm hoping it turns out to be good. At least as good as previous games. Now, when it comes to the Epic Store fiasco, there's not much I can say there. If you're wanting to play this game on PC and you're wanting to play it on Steam and you are staunch about it and you decide you do not want to play this game, I would not recommend you sail the seven seas and Jack Sparrow this game. I would definitely not recommend that. But if you do, maybe you purchase it on Steam later. For those of you who don't want to give Epic an option. For those of you who want to play it on console, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to end up purchasing it on Xbox. As much as I hate to play these games with a controller, I got to play it with a controller, and that's probably going to be my way of dealing with the entire Epic fiasco. I know a lot of people are boycotting this game because of that, and if you think I'm a sellout because I'm not going to, I announced long before I got invited to this event that I was going to play this game one way or the other, probably on a console. That is a decent compromise, and maybe that's a compromise you're going to do. But if you don't want to compromise, if you want to prove a point, I understand. I get it. And I'll be honest with you, Gearbox gets it too. When I talk to the developers, even when I talk to Randy Pitchford, I talk to him about it off camera, but these guys all say they understand that people are frustrated with that, and I understand your frustration. It's just not going to keep me from playing what looks like it's going to be one of my favorite games, 6 months earlier. And then there is the microtransactions controversy. And I'm not going to speak about, Randy making a fool out of himself on Twitter, responding to all this stuff. Here's what I will say. Randy did say on stage that there would be no microtransactions in this game. And then later, I interviewed him, and he went on to explain what he meant by that. There wouldn't be anything that's not already in Borderlands 2. If you're familiar with the monetization of Borderlands 2, there was already skins that you could purchase. There were heads that you could purchase. And of course, there was story-based DLC. But he said that there would be no pay-to-win, no premium currency, no stupid crap like that. It would just be another Borderlands game similar to Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 with cosmetics you can purchase, shift codes they'll give away for free to give you access to free guns, and then, of course, story-based DLC. Now, if you did see my gameplay, I saw some people were confused by Iridium being in this game again. If you played Borderlands 2, Iridium existed in the previous games. It gave you a reason to farm bosses, but as long as they're not selling Iridium, and they promise they are not going to, I don't think that's a problem. It is kind of like a premium currency, and I've seen a few people make that comparison, but I think it's a really weak comparison, so I don't worry about Iridium because it existed in Borderlands 2. As long as you can't buy it, who cares? But if you're going to wait for it to show up on Steam anyway, why buy it at the 6-month mark? Why not buy it at the 1-year mark when you can buy the gold version of this game, the Game of the Year edition of this game, where you will get all of that story-based DLC, where you'll get all of those cosmetics for free. If you're going to wait, it's okay to wait. And that will lead me to one other thing, and that is the bugs I saw at the preview event. And I did see in my 2 hours of gameplay a good number of bugs. At one point, the game went completely black, and that's not good. We had to reset the game. At another point, I did just straight up crash, and that's another problem. Keep in mind, the game is not due out till September, and this is an early build of the game and a special build on top of that. But will this game release with bugs? it is entirely possible. So I would not recommend pre-ordering. I would recommend waiting to see whether or not this game launches solidly. Wait for the reviews, wait for people to play it before you spend your hard-earned money, because I don't know if the Epic Store has refunds, but I don't think they do yet. And I don't think you'd be able to get a refund for this if it turns out to be buggy. And most of the time when I go to one of these previews, the version of the game that I'm playing is always a little bit buggy. It's not optimized. It's not completed. I played it on May the 1st. The game is not due out till the middle of September. It's plenty of time to really put some polish on the game. And if I'm being entirely honest with you, the version of the game I played right then was absurdly polished. It looked very, very good. The guns were fun. The gameplay was fun. It ran relatively well, except for the handful of crashes. Those crashes would ruin the gameplay experience if they're in the launch version of the game, but for an early preview of the game, it definitely has its polish. And when I talked to Randy Pitchford about it, he says because this game has been in development for so long, Anthem was only in physical development, actually being coded for about 18 months. This game has apparently been being coded for several years, and then probably uses some of the previous code from previous games as well as a base. So I feel like this game will be very polished when it's released, but buyer beware. You should probably go into it with an awareness that it may not be a perfect game upon launch. But what it is going to be, what I can guarantee you is going to be, is another Borderlands game. And if you enjoyed Borderlands 2, or if you're one of the rare people that seem to enjoy the pre-sequel, then I think you are going to enjoy this. It is exactly more of the same. For better or for worse, those 2 hours of Borderlands was exactly what it was like a few months earlier when I was playing through Borderlands 2, or a few weeks earlier when I was playing through the Borderlands remaster. You should play through those games to get ready for this one. It just seems like more of the same. More side quests, a new story, new enemies to kill, and billions more guns, including guns with legs. And I like guns with legs. More of that same Borderlands art style, more of that same Borderlands character design, and more of that Borderlands sense of humor. And that always, to me, is just added up to be a really, really fun game. And I look forward to spending, I think I spent 120 hours or so with Borderlands 2 on my Steam version. And I don't remember how much in the original Borderlands. I look forward to spending another 100 plus hours with Borderlands 3. And one more thing, Randy Pitchford was talking about the design of the game when it came to the DLC. I asked him if there would be more Vault Hunter characters to play, and he said that he wasn't sure yet. Maybe they would just add more stuff, higher levels and higher difficulty levels to the game with more story-based DLC, so there's more skills for your existing characters, so you don't have to start it from scratch. He said they're not even really looking at the DLC just yet because they're working on the core game. I like to hear that. I'm sure someone out there is assigned for DLC, and I'm sure there's design docs, and somebody's probably already working on it, but it looks like they haven't even completed what the DLC will eventually be because they're focusing on the primary game. That is very refreshing. You can say whatever you want to about Randy Pitchford, and if you've watched my videos, you know I've had a lot of bad things to say about Randy Pitchford, and I probably will again in the future because the guy puts his foot in his mouth almost as much as I do. But it sounds like this one time he's gone to bat to keep the integrity of what a Borderlands game is intact. And I think that's a very, very good thing. Because if this game failed, honestly, I don't think Gearbox would survive. I genuinely don't. So I hope they get this right. And it looks like they are going to. Now, I'm going to say one more thing here, and it might be sort of contentious because it was 2K that flew me out. And I get the impression just ever so slightly that 2K Games is making decisions that maybe the Gearbox developers, maybe even Randy, is not a huge fan of, but it sounds like Randy and his team have really gone to bat against 2K. And if 2K had their way, you would be buying card packs that included microtransactions with $99 worth of Iridium that allowed you to get guns, not through shift codes, but through your hard-earned money. That would be something I'm sure 2K would love. And as long as that doesn't happen with this game, it's going to be a perfect example of a monetized game without all of the BS. And I hope that turns out to be the case. But as I always say, buyer beware. The game is not due out till September, so temper your expectations. Let's hope for the best, prepare for the worst. But that 2 hours of gameplay, I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back and play with that game some more and get some more legendary guns and mess with that. Oh my God, I can't wait to have that game in my hands. I can't wait to mod that game so I get more legendary guns. I'm fully prepared for this to be my game of the year. And it's already been a really good year, so we'll have to see. Now, that's just one man's opinion. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, I know you guys are going to let me know in the comments section below. While you're down there, drop a like on this video so YouTube knows that you want to see more stuff like this. Big thanks to the folks over at 2K Games and Gearbox for flying me out there and allowing me to play the game. I hope to work with them more as we approach the release of this game. I'm not much of a sellout when it comes to video games, but when it comes to Borderlands, I will do whatever you want me to, Randy Pitchford, sir. Let me be your assistant in the magic act. Saw me in half. I want to see what's inside me, Randy, as long as I get to play more Borderlands, okay? I didn't get to play Frag. I didn't get to play the Beastmaster guy. That's the guy I really wanted to play. Get me down there to Gearbox in Dallas so I can play Frag right now. Guys, thank you for watching. As always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and if you've already hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, because when you do, you guarantee the success of videos like this one, and it means the world to me. See ya.